Welcome to my review of Steel Assault for the Switch. I decided to get this review out early since this game just came out. Usually I schedule reviews about a month or two in advance, but I figured it would just be good to drop this one immediately and get the review out. Since I did just complete normal mode, I haven't tried arcade or expert mode yet, but from what I understand of the expert mode, it's basically double damage and you have to start at the beginning of the stage if you die even once. Normally, the way the game works on normal is there are checkpoints in each new section usually, and you have unlimited lives and continue. So there actually are no lives; it just continues. So if you lose your life, you will just continue from the last checkpoint you got to, like a lot of modern indie games that are in that old style. So I found this game to be really unique with the grappling mechanic. Though sometimes it can be a little bit finicky, my grapple hook will kind of break, and I won't exactly be sure why that is. So sometimes it's a little tricky to get it right. But overall, it's really innovative in the way it uses the grappling hook to navigate the environments. And there's a lot of very clever ideas with how it's implemented. Like for one example later on, you have walls that have conveyor belts along the walls, and you have to grapple onto them. And the way it moves makes it kind of challenging to maneuver through the environment. So it's pretty cool. I'm going to show that a little later. But yeah, so my review is going to be based around completing normal mode. But I think that gives me a good enough idea of, if I like the game or not. So the game was around $13 on the Switch, and it's also on PC. I'm not sure what the pricing is on there, but of course, the pricing always changes on these things. But there's a good variety of different stages. There's a lot of different things going on in the stages. Now, one issue with the game is the difficulty balancing. I found the game way too easy. It took me about 51 minutes to beat. And if you don't fuck up or die, it's about 30 minutes long. And I found that there was really only one, actually hard part, and it was because of shitty grappling mechanics where your grappling hook doesn't latch on to where you would expect it to, and I thought that was kind of shittily designed, badly designed. So that was my only real, challenge, and it was for the wrong reasons. So I would have liked to seen the game have a more, steadily increasing type of difficulty, not have the second or third boss be the hardest part of the game, and then the rest of the game was much easier. So I thought it was, I thought it could have been designed better in that sense, where the challenge, should escalate gradually as you get farther into the game. I usually like to see that, but it's not a game breaker for me. But it's I like to see like where the game gradually gets you more and more accustomed to the challenges, and it gets harder and harder, so that you have to utilize those skills. To me, that's what some of the best games do. So I really like to see that. It doesn't really do that at all. It's very unbalanced in that sense. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but I think it could be, better if that was implemented better. But there's a nice variety of levels. You have this area here where you're kind of on this raft. You have to kind of defend yourself while this raft moves around. And then you fight a boss at the end, which is very cool. I like this stage a lot. You have your whip move, which is what you're mainly going to be using. You just whip things pretty much. You can whip in, I believe, 8 directions. So you have a nice amount of directions with the whip. And you have a slide that gives you some invincibility frames to dodge shit as well. I didn't refine this gameplay, so this was just me beating all the sections for my first time. It was there was no redoing anything to refine it or anything. So there's a lot of sloppy gameplay in this video. That's why I decided not to do a tutorial. So this is the boss fight that I found to be bullshit. It's the hardest part in the game, but for the wrong reason. See how I keep falling when I grapple onto the bottom? I just fall straight to my death. And I'm going to show that a few times so you can get a little bit of a gist of what I'm talking about, and you can kind of understand where I'm coming from with it. Because I don't like to just complain about something and not illustrate it, so I thought I would show what I was talking about. It's just not clean like you would expect it to be. You would expect the grapple to kind of cleanly latch on, but you'll see you have to go down here to avoid the fire. But when I go off this platform to try to grapple, that's why I was just taking the damage from the fire, because I was trying to beat this guy without even grappling down there, because I found it to be so hard to grapple onto the bottom. I couldn't do it for a while. You have to do it very specifically for it to work. It's really not hard, but the problem is that you don't know the positioning that you have to grapple to. The area is not clear that you have to grapple onto underneath that ship. So that's a big problem. I mean, like I said, it's something you can learn, but it's not clear as your first time playing it. I basically had to look it up because I didn't know what I was doing wrong. Now, the game does have arrows below the drop ship to show you that that's where you're supposed to go and grapple to, but it doesn't show you exactly where you have to grapple your hook into to actually grapple onto it. So I'll show a little bit more of that. I believe I show some more failed attempts at trying to grapple to the bottom of the ship, which, as you saw, if you don't do that, you pretty much die because the fire will just burn off all your health. So it kind of forces you to grapple onto the bottom of the ship. See, I try again, failed. And you saw the grapple hook clearly latched onto the bottom platform. And you'll see when I do it successfully, you'll see that my grapple hook was, in the right area that it should have been. It's just not, but it's particular. See, now it works because I can latch onto both ends of the grapple hook. I guess that's what it is. But it's just not clear because, and I guess looking at it now, I can see that it has to be connected at both ends for it to work, obviously. But it really wasn't clear when I was playing. I kept missing that part. But maybe it was me, but I found that part to be sloppy. And that was the only reason that this boss gave me any kind of challenge whatsoever, because you can take a lot of damage. So I could have just, muscled my way through the encounter had I known about that, because the fire was the thing that was draining most of my health. So I found it kind of unbalanced that the hardest part is maybe this second or third boss. And, the rest of the game was very easy, and everything before that was pretty much easy. Now, initially, there was a bit of a learning curve with the grapple hook, so it did take me some time, and I had to adjust my control layout, my button layout, to make it feel kind of right with the grappling hook. So I had to play around with that, because I wasn't using a standard controller. I was using a M30 8-bit Do controller, which is kind of like a Sega Saturn or Genesis 6-button controller for the Switch. So I had to kind of adjust that. But that was like one of my main issues, is that the game is too easy overall, and it kind of has a strange spike in difficulty for the wrong reasons midway through the game. The other issue I have with the game is that it's only 30 minutes long when you know what you're doing now. A lot of old action games were only 30 minutes, long back in the days, the kind of games that this is based off of. But a lot of the better ones were at least an hour. If you look at like Revenge of Shinobi and other great action games, they're usually at least an hour long. So this one, I think it should have been at least 2 to 4 times the length. If you look at Valtheris, one of the best indie games that I've ever played, that I did a review of and a boss tutorial. If you look at that game I believe is about 2 hours long when you know what you're doing, maybe longer. And that was a really nice length. But at 30 minutes, this is just really, really short. But it's not bad, honestly. For the $13, I think it's a quality pickup for $13. But if you're familiar with action games and you're decent at them, you'll probably beat the game within an hour, like I did. It took me 51 minutes, I believe. So you'll probably beat it pretty quickly. There was initially a learning curve for me with the grappling hook to figure out exactly how it worked and get used to using it. But it didn't take me too long to adjust. You have some turret sections where you can jump on these turrets and use them to take out enemies, which is cool. I like how it mixes things up a little bit. There's a very nice variety in the way the stages play out, so that's very well done. And that's why I think one of the main issues with the game is the difficulty balancing. It doesn't challenge you more as you get farther, and it's just too short. I think it would have been better if it was longer. But I don't have any major complaints because the game was pretty damn good overall, you know what I mean? But it's not on that level of greatness that I would put, my favorite action games on. But this would have been a great game had it been released, back in the Genesis time or something like that. This would have been very, very good. Even though it's short, it would have been like a very, top quality kind of game. But I still wouldn't have put it, even games back then like Revenge of Shinobi or Shinobi 3 blows this away for me, you know what I mean? But this does have a lot of really innovative ideas and executed well, Now for me, I found that my grapple would break a lot of times, and it wasn't always clear to me why it would break. But it's probably because I didn't have both ends of the grapple hook connected. But sometimes it would be difficult to kind of align that and set that up, at least for me. But I didn't have a ton of practice with the game. So that was something that I noticed. But again, that's something that could be, fixed with more practice. Now, my review doesn't really include the arcade mode. I'm not sure what arcade mode is. There's a tutorial as well that I edited out. It's a very basic tutorial. You don't have to do it. It's optional. Now this is the final boss, which I beat the first time I got to it. Very, very easy. You can take quite a bit of damage and just, kind of muscle your way through it. So I don't have a refined play of this because this was the first time I even tried it, and I was able to beat it. But for some reason, the snake was way harder than the final boss, or anything in the game. And really, it was just a matter of knowing where I had to grapple to. Once I figured that out, I beat it fast. So the game is quite easy, but it's a fun game. But yeah, I didn't try arcade mode, so I don't know exactly what the difference is with arcade mode. Maybe it's limited continues. That would be my guess. I didn't try it, though, or do any research on it. And expert mode, my good friend Cool Hand Mike tried it out, and he said the only difference, the main difference he noticed anyway, was that you took twice as much damage, and if you died at any part in the stage, you had to start the stage from the beginning. So I haven't tried that yet. I may mess around with that, because I did enjoy the game. But I have so many extreme modes and games in progress right now in my backlog that I would probably want to complete some of them first before I start that up. But sometimes I just jump on these things anyway. And, my backlog continues to grow pretty much every day or every few days. I add another game to my backlog. I probably have over 200 games in progress with saves. So that's why when you see me beating games every month, sometimes I beat a lot of games in a day. Sometimes that's because I'm just finishing them off, games that have been in progress for months. But, yeah, overall, I would give this game a 7 out of 10. I think it's a good game. I wouldn't put it on the great level. I think if it had the extra length, though, I think it's very close to being a great game, but I think it would have to be at least twice as long, and I think the difficulty would have to scale better instead of, everything kind of feeling like the same difficulty level, and you can just take the damage and kind of just muscle through the game, on normal. So I think normal would have benefited from having more of a challenge, more of a balanced difficulty. Now, of course, whenever you get into expert modes and shit like that, that kind of goes out the window because they're meant to be extreme, so you don't really give a shit about if the difficulty's balanced at that point. You know what I mean? It just has to be difficult in a fair way. But I can't review that mode yet because I haven't done that. But if you have any questions, let me know, and thanks for watching.